All right, Sean Bormet, another 5 questions. I want to touch on a little more training. I know you got some indicator matches coming up. The season's getting really close. What do you look for in those indicator matches, and how have you seen the competition in the room to this point?
So the competition in the room is starting to heat up because the volume of wrestling and some of the minutes and the intensity of what we're doing has been shifting now that we're into the 20 hours a week. Things we're really looking at are just how hard guys are competing in positions, technically and tactically, how are they doing in decision making and just their wrestling IQ and knowledge in position. So we're constantly sort of teaching and also testing them in these areas, and then going back and working on skill. Competitively, we're always looking like psychologically at how they're doing and putting them through different scenarios, changing practices around quite a bit, putting different stress points in those practices to see how well they do and how they manage in those stress points. And and even just looking at the little things, we really start to hone in on the little details that end up meaning so much in the big moments, like just in the practice room, never surrendering points. Mistakes happen, and how hard you hustle and recover from mistakes is critical. Your body language on the mat and in between goes, and as you're getting back to the center, how important all those little areas are. So we're really sort of honing in on those things, talking about those things, and then emphasizing and evaluating throughout the training. Starting to do matches, also starting to manage and monitor weight management a lot closer, and that's part of sort of the indicator matches we do, which we're about 10 days out, a week and a half out from those. That's also somewhat about weight management and just making sure these guys are dialed in with their process of making weight, post weigh-in, recovery, and fueling, and then their warm-up routines, and sort of getting practice running at that before we actually compete in some of those open tournaments. So things we'll be looking at in that is just obviously the guys competing in each weight. I think some of our weight classes are a lot more straightforward than others. I think we got a few weights that are really competitive, and there's some depth, and a lot of guys will be competing for those spots, and that'll be a process. The indicator matches are sort of twofold. One, give us a practice round of weight management and the warm up and competing, and then also just watching how guys are competing with the officials and with eyes on them at all times in those matches. We film those mostly to just break down competition, how they competed, technical areas. But ultimately that lineup will continue to be decided throughout the fall in some of those more contested weights through competition. The competition is the biggest indicator for us, and week in, week out, how guys are approaching their training and how guys are competing in real performance will ultimately dictate that starting lineup going forward.
We're starting the season with 2 open tournaments. Clarion on the 3rd, MSU a week later. What's your plan for those 2 open tournaments in terms of who you send in and what do you want to see?
So we'll probably send most of the guys that we're anticipating being in that starting lineup to the Clarion Open, along with a bunch of the guys that are more veteran guys and probably maybe in those second slots, and getting them a lot of matches early. That next weekend, Michigan State Open, we'll probably have a lot of guys that are in those second slots compete again, as well as our freshmen, and we'll use one of the dates for our freshmen to compete at that Michigan State Open. So we'll sort of split the team between those 2 events. Some guys will wrestle in both, but a lot of our starters will compete in the first one, and then they'll compete again that weekend of November 17th at home against Columbia. But we'll definitely have 2 different groups, and we're looking forward to those tournaments. I know our guys are excited to hit those open tournaments and get to compete against some guys from other teams, because we're in about week 8 now of them training with each other, so they're starting to get excited about competition.
I want to ask you about recruiting. We just got our first 26 commitment last night. I know you can't get into details and specifics and names, but how's that been going?
Recruiting's been going great. Huge commitment last night. In-state, just tough, hard-nosed, great work ethic, high quality, high character young man. So we're super excited about him being our first commit in that 26 class. 2 big events that we've been at. Who's Number One, which was outstanding. Coach Jackson and I were down there. That was just a great environment. And some great wrestling on display. Who's Number One. So just had a great time watching and just seeing the level of the kids we're watching close and recruiting, and and just a great event that was put on there. Then last weekend was Super 32, and obviously that tournament's got a lot of depth, some big brackets, a lot of really great competitors there in terms of the depth and the talent. So another weekend of outstanding matches. Coach Chiarella was there. I was able to watch a lot of those online as well, especially some of the kids that we're really monitoring. So, you know, the level of high school wrestling right now is just at an all-time high, I would say. And the build up to some of these matches and some of the matches that were repeat matches from Who's Number One were, you know, just super exciting wrestling, great for our sport. And those are the kind of kids that we're excited to recruit. So that's been going really well. We got our last, not our last, but our last home football recruiting weekend, the weekend of the Michigan State game. So that's coming up in about a week and a half. So we're really excited for the group we have coming on campus for that game and that weekend. And we'll actually be having some of our indicator matches on that Saturday morning as well, since that's a night game. So it'll be a great day here in the Bonna, and then off to the Michigan State game.
All right, speaking about recruiting, your recruiting coordinator, Alex Deringer, retired over the summer from competition, and then you just announced last week that he'll be joining that Cliff King Wrestling Club staff. So, you know, what has he meant to our programs here, the club, Michigan, you know, just the environment here in Bonna over the last few years?
Can't say enough great things about Alex Deringer as a competitor, as a human, and as a coach. I mean, he is just a guy that pours himself into everything he does. He's got an unbelievable personality, connects so well with his peers and with the athletes, really connects well with recruits. Obviously, you know, he's highly decorated, you know, 3-time NCAA champion, Hodge Trophy winner. He's been on numerous U.S. national teams and been ranked as high as second in the world internationally. So just all around, just great human. He has a huge wrestling IQ. He's been around some of the best coaches on the planet. So he brings a lot of technical ability. He's excited to be in there working with our athletes and helping and assist with all the things we're doing with the club, and just really also starting to learn more in some of the other areas with the recruiting, you know, our video coordinator, also with fundraising. I'll start working with Alex a little bit on fundraising. He's got such a great personality, and, you know, just anything and everything it takes to run the club. I know he's excited about getting his hands into and starting to learn how to do it and start to bring some value. So he's just one of those guys, huge asset. We're so happy to have him here with us and as part of our programs here. And I know he's going to do a great job.
We got a couple of freestyle tournaments coming up. U23 Worlds with Jacob Cardenas, and then the non-Olympic Senior Worlds with Ben Hannes and Matt Finesilver. So touch on that a little bit. They're coming up real soon. How excited are you to see these guys compete?
Yeah, they've been putting in a lot of work. They're sort of at the tail end of their training phase now, starting to taper off a little bit. Guys have been putting in a ton of work. Jacob will go first. He's going to compete on October 25th and 26th at the U23s. Coach Jackson and Jacob will be leaving on October 22nd to head over. I know Jacob's got huge goals. He's won a silver, he's won a bronze, and I know he's got his sights set on gold in Albania. So super excited for Jacob. And then right away following that next week will be Matt Finesilver and Ben Hannes, and those two have been training hard. They're both going to be at 92 kilos, so different from their normal international weights.
Right.
In this non-Olympic year Worlds. Matt went up. He went up to 92 kilos, and Ben is coming down from 97 to 92 kilos, so they'll both be at the same weight. We're hoping they're on opposite sides of the bracket, but definitely looking forward to those guys and the opportunity they have to compete in Albania. So some big matches coming up for them towards the end of this month, and we're all super excited to follow and cheer them on from Ann Arbor.
All right, Sean, that's the last of you for a couple weeks. We're going to have Dylan Ragusin next week. He doesn't know that yet. We're announcing it here first. So if you have any questions for him, submit them. Do you have any questions for Dylan?
We're putting Dylan in the hot seat. I'm definitely going to have a question or two that I will come up with between now and next week, but Dylan will do a great job. You guys will be excited to hear from Dylan.
All right, Sean, thank you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.